And then obviously we touched on LLMs and importance of data quality. So can you discuss the importance of data quality and governance in successfully implementing AI initiatives,
Yeah.
specifically for portfolio companies?
Yeah, so I'll tackle it in two chunks. First, data quality. It's obviously important. As always, with any learning system, we're reliant on the data that we're providing the model for any representation that it has of the world. That is not changing. But we are working with foundation models. They enable us to access data in its raw form in ways that we couldn't have done before. So we can do it across modalities. We can take in raw files or documents or speech or recordings as they exist in the world. And we don't need to spend as much time cleaning it up, converting it across formats, or designing features very carefully for predictive models like we used to do. So I would say I would encourage teams to start looking at the data that they have in its raw form and see how far they can get with playing around with it with the models as is. The pipelining of data and the provision of the right pieces to answer certain questions is very important. But as long as you've piped the right data in, I would start by using the raw format as much as I can and then go from there and learn about what the limitations could be. But I wouldn't chase my own tail trying to clean data very carefully or structure it very carefully in ways that I may have done a few years ago. Another difficulty that I've heard, it's a different take on the data quality angle, but for evaluations and for improvement of models, one approach is to try to come up with a gold standard of what the output needs to look like. And one thing we've seen is that if the task is complex enough, let's say we're trying to generate a full memo, or let's say we're trying to generate a full letter that we're sending in response to something, it's often the case that humans don't agree with themselves about how to perform this task or what the gold standard actually looks like. And so what we've seen to be more successful is actually just to get started based on historical outputs that you have out there, regardless of trying to answer the question of it's the gold standard that is the most perfect form that could ever be, and then just respond to feedback that you collect quickly to the outputs you're starting to generate. So I would say don't try to be perfect from the get-go, get started, and then have recurring improvements going forward. And then on the governance front, I think it can be very important to define what success metrics actually look like and what good enough is. Because for a lot of these tasks, even if you complete it with a 70 precision, let's call it, that could already have massive business impact. So as long as we keep ourselves focused on what's the right goal and what is an improvement at all on top of the current state, we can be a lot more, we can keep making progress rather than get bogged down in, again, conversations about what perfect looks like. The other thing is, from a governance perspective, I would say try to make sure that you don't have, again, too many efforts taking overlapping approaches to solving the same fundamental problems. Try to build on each other's work and then get alignment again across the business and the tech teams. Track progress in terms of those good enough metrics that you've identified, and then respond to any roadblocks or performance degradations that you've hit after the fact and have some mitigations for what happens if you do go off the rails occasionally. But I would say all of these things should be in mind of the governance structure that you put in place.